This is always a hot topic, gentlemen. Always a hot topic for all the right reasons, because it's about creating the balance. So we'll jump straight into it, and I'll go, which direction am I going to go in? Love it. Anil, let's look. You've got a lot of hotel projects in the pipeline at the moment, a lot of things under development. And from what I've heard, somewhere in the vicinity of nearly 20 restaurants coming up in the not too distant future. Is there a one-rule-fits-all approach for these developments for you?
Let me just backtrack a bit. We got into the hotel business 15, 20 years ago. We have 15 hotels, 60 restaurants, so it's a fairly big operation. All our hotels are international chain managed, all the big boys. When we signed a management agreement with them 15, 20 years ago, one agreement, you look after the room, you look after the F&B. Life was so simple, I tell you. And then, of course, one big advantage, and I must point that out, that in the Dubai market, and probably the GCC too, the hotel, they have a big advantage on the F&B side over the standalones, i.e. alcoholic beverages are only served in the chain restaurants, in the hotels. So you always had that advantage. It worked very well till this crazy development of restaurants in Dubai came along. And I think I now really speak for a lot of hotel owners who now have realized that their F&B side is not doing as well as it should. And particularly when they started comparing themselves to these standalone restaurants, some of them started getting alcoholic beverage licenses, and the gap was huge. So something was going wrong somewhere. And that is a process of evolution that's going on. We as a group have already started taking steps to do something about it. The F&B operation in any hotel is a business within a business. I mean, this is the key here, okay? And we realized, and you have heard that from a lot of the specialists who spoke in the sessions before us, both international and local, there is a lot of skill set in running an F&B operation, whether it is the quality of the food or it's all the new marketing techniques or even the delivery modes, etc. There is just too much happening. And when you're in a city like Dubai, which is oversupplied at the moment, certainly, that challenge is amplified. So, we are now going through this process where we are really getting involved as owners. We are frankly going and seeking assistance from some of these people who you have met today, also as well as others, because we've realized that you've got to get that the brand of the restaurant out there through all the various marketing techniques, which was probably not happening. You have to keep evolving the concept, and this is a big challenge for owners today. There's a lifespan for a concept now, and that lifespan is getting shorter and shorter. So we're doing the investment in the restaurant, and we've realized we have got only so many years to get our payback. Earlier it was you build one and then it'll last the term of the management agreement, 15 years, 20 years. Maybe there are a few out there that may, but I would say that that's not true. So those are some of the challenges we're facing right now.
Understand. Christian, from Hilton's perspective, I mean, you guys, you play out a little bit. I mean, and I know that there's some mixed arrangements here as well.
We're coming, I think, right into line with Anil. And we're obviously having the pleasure to manage a lot of those properties. And I think, as Anil said, it is an ownership understanding of how to take the way forward to realize equally not what we've expected 30 years, 40 years back, or 20 years back even, to say, well, I've given you that control of managing my property, my asset, and I equally expect you to do food and beverage. Food and beverage has taken a great step. And I think for us, actually using the Hiltons within Anil's portfolio, and I would use them very much as a great example, is to create a healthy mix through a food and beverage outline of creating a journey, what is really relevant for the property. And I think it goes back to your initial point of does one fit for all? Absolutely not. I think it is absolutely crucial, and we within Hilton very much focus onto an outsourced perspective first. And I keep hearing it across the room, speaking to different operators. Everybody wants to outsource. Now, that is absolutely amazing. I think we've got amazing brands, but we also need investors. So what we really focus on, and we've got some good examples in the city, we've got some good examples coming in Europe now, within my reach as well, and developing further. And equally, one is on the Palm, which is a property of yours, which has a very healthy mix of strong operated external brands to create through a journey creation, basically mapping your property itself, identifying first of all what is your property for. And I think we need to step back as food and beverage operators within hotels in many cases to say I'm business focused or I'm leisure focused. It doesn't again fit one for all. And then ultimately, and I think we need to take ourselves on the heart, and this is where we strongly focus, is what I plan today and opening the property in 5-6 years won't work anymore. So really taking the step back to get the agreement with the ownership, to do it in a stage approach. My hotel essential needs for food and beverage can be well planned out because it stays if I know my business mix. But then all other locations between the different outsource models, and then if I don't be successful in obviously finding the right proposition on outsource, to equally take ourselves as operators and managing the properties to create and operate truly market-driven, relevant products. Yeah. And I think there's a great mix in, and I'm looking in, obviously, the DoubleTree is a full lease down at the JBR. It has a fantastic spread in between, but ultimately, again, it's through the ownership creating the lease opportunities, supporting them from us, and that's one of our big missions, and equally myself. So.
Great. Ryan, from your perspective, who you just want to come in and take over all F&B and hotels going forward?
Leave it to us.
Everyone's going to get to experience that tonight at West Lodge and Hotel Cartagena as well. What do you see? Because I think that there's a consideration, and something that sits in my head all the time, is the traditional all-day dining approach to hotel mentality. Christian's smiling, I can see that as well. Mansour smiling as well. Where you have to provide this so-called breakfast offering. How do you go in as a third-party operator into a hotel with a concept that you have created and it's got its box and that's where it sits, and then have to provide scrambled eggs and hash browns and all of that for 560 people in the morning?
I think the ideal situation, to touch on the all-day dining, is if you're able to not do it, then don't do it. But the mistake that obviously you have to offer a service to your guests. But from looking at all-day dining experiences historically, they've been geared toward breakfast. And as something geared towards breakfast will serve breakfast and breakfast well. Then coming into lunchtime, dinner time, good luck. So I think if we go the other way around and say, well, what is the concept? What do we want to create? And think of breakfast the other way around. At the end of the day, you have a captive market for breakfast. So why cater for breakfast? Why specifically cater for breakfast? So if I would take the approach to an all-day dining restaurant of how to make it work in dinner time, how to make it work in lunchtime, how to make it really viable, and then look at fitting the breakfast element into it. Yep. So turn it a little bit around on its head, because if it's a choice for breakfast, well, what are the people going to do? Either they eat there or they don't, you know? And I don't say do a black restaurant or something very dark or whatever, but you can do a concept that's cleverly done to do dinner and to do lunch that facilitates breakfast. So writing the concept in mind with breakfast is definitely the way to go. The other thing is that we need to limit the amount of F&B in hotels. Now, it's not just 88 restaurants in a hotel, because it's like, where are the people coming from? You know, and I think the expectation, like Christian says, is when you create the hotel, is to understand what the demand of the F&B will be or should be. And that way you can measure it. If it's just to do breakfast, then you need one space, you know? So.
But I think it's still needed, and I think this is where the one fits for all in a certain segment. Now, there's certain hotels operations which need just hotel needs because your high street is strong enough, and I think I would equally support that. And the less is more with those lavish breakfast buffets. I think we go back to quality again. So again, we as hotel operators have maybe gone in the growth perspective very heavy. To keep controlling the growth perspective, you put standards behind, and those standards keep building. So your menus from 10 items have gone into 30 items.
Yep.
So I think that all-day destination, I call it, creation is absolutely important. And then there's the all-day dining. But breakfast keeps coming up for so many years. Hotel operators only know how to do breakfast. It is not an obstacle. We just have to do it. And we have to approach it in a destination approach where the opportunity is right, where your market needs it.
Mansour, from your perspective, I mean, thank you once again for hosting us today.
Welcome.
It's been absolutely amazing. The food's been spectacular. How do you, when you sort of overview all of the different operations outlets that you have here, including Enigma, including Q's,
Yes.
you know, do you see them as independent, self-sustaining operations, or do you view it still as the food and beverage department per se?
Of course, me personally, to be honest, I am against outsourcing F&B in such a beautiful hotel, and that's also perhaps the reason I came to Versace to work in Versace in kind of a long-standing hotel. So because I believe still in talents we have in UAE to be developed in the hotels itself. So, and that's given here for me especially. And any restaurant here, not only in Versace, overall should be seen as a long-standing restaurant. We are too much in hotel restaurant driven in Dubai, and that might be a mistake perhaps. Me personally, I come from only a long-standing restaurant, worked 17, 18 years only in restaurants, and then came to hotels. And my mindset is totally different. I see restaurants as a business within a business.
Yep.
So, and it has to be dealt also the way with the restaurant. You have to put, incentives for your team. You have to motivate them to get the business in, and you have to put also concepts in which are not only meant for 1 year. There are a lot of concepts here in our world. There are like long-term pop-up restaurants. So, but we have to change this mindset. We have to change this mindset, and you see it here in Versace very nice. So, Q's has a character for itself. Your Q's bar is Q's. So you come only for Q's. You don't go to Palazzo Versace to jump into Q's. You come definitely only, it's like a bug lamp. You bring people to the hotel. Enigma, everybody knows what to expect to come towards Palazzo Versace to go to Enigma. And that's my opinion. Every hotel, every restaurant, you have to limit the offer, what Ryan said perfectly, but they have to have a character itself for themselves. Every restaurant has to have a face and character.
Completely agree. Yeah. And Anil, coming back from the owner's perspective again, there are multiple ways of looking at F&B. You can do a lease arrangement. You could lease the space out, which would obviously fall under the governance of the owner of the hotel. You could do a management agreement with a third-party company like EPJ, who could come in and manage your operation for you. You could do a franchise agreement where you bring a brand in and the hotel runs that brand on your behalf. Are these areas that you're exploring now at the moment with new HMAs that you're signing?
Yes, of course. Let's just again go back a bit here. Why am I bringing this third party in again? I'm bringing him in because he's got certain skill sets that I'm missing. Now, in an ideal situation, I would like to just have those skill sets, because it is not a good idea to have too many partners in the equation. Okay? So, if I believe and we believe that the skill sets we need, we certainly don't want to lease the restaurant out. When I signed a management agreement 20 years ago, I invested tens of millions of dollars in the hotel, and I invested in the F&B. I want to remain the investor. I don't want to rent. I mean, this is maybe something to do with our personal stand on this. Others may take a different view because of their own cash flows. And then I would like the third party to give me the skill sets that he has. What does he have? He's got a strong brand, hopefully. Okay, and that's why I went to him. And I would like that name outside the door, which will then add to the brand value of the international operator also. Number two, we've realized that the two key people, the manager, I would like to call him actually the general manager of that restaurant, is key. I would insist in my agreements that he, the third-party operator, should bring that person in. And because he's very wedded, the reward model is such that the reward only really comes if the sales bump up. So he's motivated to give me a general manager who really knows what to do. The key always there, the problems there are, for example, we had international operators talking to us earlier on, and then we had some local operators, these third-party guys. The international operators really need to send a general manager who knows the local market. Because if he doesn't know the local market and all the sales tools and marketing tools that will be required, it's not going to work. So that's very important, that we need a person who's locally cued on, knows all the latest tech tools to go out and sell. And then the chef. You know, the quality of the food eventually counts. We have a very good example, I mean, we as owners have a very good example of a restaurant in town that has got one of the shittiest locations, okay? It's in the basement of in a hotel in the middle of nowhere. And you cannot get a table to sit, whether it is a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I went and visited it, and I said, well, what is it that they're doing that we're not doing? Okay? And you go through all these alleys, and you find parking with great difficulty, and you reach up there. The quality of the staff was outstanding. The way they greeted you, the way they attended to you was outstanding completely. And then the quality of the food. So the moral of the story is, those are the two things that will eventually count.
So Christian, then from your perspective, do you want to be the person, or does Hilton want to be the partner for the owner that says, we'll bring in this third-party operator, as opposed to the owner going, I've got this specialty restaurant and I want to bring in X. Is that Hilton's role to go, well, we could run that?
I think absolutely, and I think we are definitely in a position where we are catching up ultimately. I think the three business models we want to operate on, and as I said before, outsourcing is one of our big strives, and we're talking opposite, right on the side, because we've got the same, we manage the properties of Anil, is to really bring those in, and I think our focus ultimately is there, and we know we're not going to fill all our properties, or where relevant, but at least we are able to infiltrate exactly those kind of businesses into it to change our economics and our approach onto things as well a bit. Where I really go back, and this is really linking straight on, is this single point of responsibility. It's the hierarchy drive within hotels, it's the food and beverage is an opinion business. We're all very passionate about food and beverage, and I think you're not in food and beverage, you are passionate about it. And we all have our likes, we all have our dislikes, and I think that's where we need to step back, and we ultimately use with external operators, which bring a great value, and it's been all mentioned, with them, and equally make us to understand, because we are challenging ourselves, of course, on a different perspective from a hotel thing, from a profitability and contribution, which is our core business. Our core business is hotels. Yeah. Our core business is really lodging, hotels, different brands, healing, commercially driven amazingness. And over the last 20 years, food and beverage has developed itself in its separate side as a separate silo and a separate expertise. And that's why we call it now these days restaurateurs, correct? It wasn't also mentioned 15, 20 years ago. So the opportunities have opened up from food trucks and anything else, all mentioned today. So we really use that model to, first of all, not just learn. We know it. You know, and I have the pleasure to come from that background and now to contribute within Hilton's direction onto the same way. And it will take time, because I think there's also a certain matter of certain ownerships to find the trust in that again, because the trust has been gone, because we haven't been able to really pull it over. And it takes commitment and time and money and efforts to create your own concepts, which you don't have, and more risk. If you bring anybody external or internal, it's all very natural. I think we just need to keep it separate and have separate conversations, and and that's my last one on it, be on the table from the day of talking about a master plan, talking about signing a property. Let's get F&B on the table from the get-go. Because in many cases, you're just in somewhere in between. And then you couldn't reverse, basically.
You get what's left over, basically.
And a concept is the driver. It's the entity of a concept soul driven by great people. And the simplicity is missed on this. We try to be international. I think it came today. I was waiting for that answer. Is international. What is international? You know, it's like people who do mixed cuisines fusion, they do it fantastically well. Let's let them do it. People who do Michelin stars, they are segmented. Let's don't try to copy them. Let's try to be determined. And I guess I know the concept you've referred to, Anil. It's an ethnic concept, yeah? It's an ethnic, straight to the point concept, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Bingo. Fantastic.
Ryan, once again, third party hat on. What's your preferred model going into a hotel?
Would you, I don't think you should go into brain surgery with an axe.
Okay.
So I think that the landscape of F&B has changed, as Christian says. I think that the hotels used to be leaders in F&B because that's where they sat, that's where the restaurants sat. And people like yourselves, unfortunately, are a dying breed in hotels. You know, that passion, that love for the business, and the model of standardizing through hotels, that in every hotel this has a model and it fits in this box. It has to have X, and it has to have Y, and it has to have Z, and it has to have certain standards. You know, that stifles creativity, it stifles excitement, it stifles anything where the people are allowed to take ownership and where the staff are allowed to take ownership. And what we try and do as third-party operators is cuddle that business, allow that business to grow as a business. You know, we take full P&L responsibility, we take full responsibility of the staff, of the chefs, of the food, so it all sits with us. Let the hotels operate the hotels. I'm not going to go and run a hotel, I wouldn't know where to start. But I run a good restaurant, you know, and I'm really passionate about restaurant, and that's what our team's about, and that's, you know, where what I think in terms of the operation is let people specialize, you know, let people do what they do best.
What they do best. I mean, Mansour, just probably in closing, you had, you know, the Enigma story. Where it is now and where it started, there are two different places, aren't there? Yeah. So that journey must have been very interesting for the team inside to get to obviously where you are today, which is a fabulous, you know, single concept outlet.
Exactly. So for the team, of course, for the team is a dream, first of all, to work there and 3 Michelin star chefs, 2 Michelin star chefs, and later on. And you know, you cannot, as a chef de partie or sous chef or chef de cuisine, you cannot have something better. But on the other side, is also we learned a lot throughout the year being open here. So we studied the market, and starting with the 3 Michelin star chef with a fantastic concept of food, but it did not match to the area where we live in. So you know, the culture is different here. The mix of people is different. The entire way of going out and dining is different than perhaps where he was coming from. But then studying the market and understanding a little bit the market, so we switch on to Enigma, where we are now with the Persian cuisine. Very authentic. I call it grandmama cuisine, but with a twist of modern presentation and you know, European techniques, modern techniques. So, and we see how it's caught, you know, and how the market is accepting that. And that's what I say. It's also not only about the concept, it's also what Anil said, is about the people, the service, yeah, the face again in the restaurant. That's very important. So we have all been in different restaurants eating, and 12 courses, 10 courses, 6 courses, but to be honest, I remember perhaps from 6 courses in a fantastic Michelin star restaurant, one course. But I will always remember the face who perhaps has served me, you know, in a fantastic way, in a great way. So these are the things I remember. I remember the chef, yeah, who perhaps have come out, greeted me, or brought the food to me. So that's important in hospitality. You have to put, we forgot a little bit to put our heart in. Of course, it's nice to outsource, but it's also nice to develop people you have in place, and we have great talents here. We have great talents here, and perhaps I should not say that, but instead of putting, you know, the fees giving to 2 Michelin star chefs, perhaps it's better to develop a little bit your own team.
Yep.
I think
that's very valid. What I'm liking from hearing everyone speak is we've actually come a long way in the last 2 to 3 years. I think we had this discussion about 3 years ago, and what I'm seeing now is obviously the entire focus is on personnel, whether it's third-party outsourced, whether it's in-house, whether it's the owner. Our biggest, most valuable investment is in the people that are actually delivering whatever it is we're doing in the outlet. And secondly, to see that there are hoteliers that are so passionate about retaining ownership of their F&B that they won't let anyone come and touch it, and yet hotel companies that are now actively looking at strategic partnerships with third-party people to come in and support. I mean, I think it's a fantastic place to see and a great balance. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you please give a hand to my wonderful panel this afternoon?